So thank you for coming on today.
Thanks
We've
for
had
having me.
it's been a bit of a hard track to get you on, but we finally got you on, and yeah, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. Yeah, sorry, it's obviously the time difference between the
Yeah,
UK
it's
and
always hard the
Australia.
first time. But yeah, well, would you like to just introduce yourself? Maybe talk to your background as a automotive designer, and talk to the organizations you've worked for in the past.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, my name is Saurabh Shah. It's a very Indian name. So I mean, I'm born and bred in the UK, but my mum rather insisted on a very Indian name. So my dad actually wanted to call me Sean, but would have been easier. But so most people in the industry just know me by Shah, just my surname. And But anyway, yeah, I was about 14, I think, when I figured out that you could be a car designer, you could do that as a career path. That basically blew my mind. But anyway, fast forward, I've worked at some major OEMs like Volkswagen. Started my career off at a small agency in Italy called Esiste, which we did some projects with Lamborghini there, and then moved into Volkswagen design in Germany. I've worked for Ford, McLaren, Jaguar Land Rover, and a whole host of companies. I'm currently at ZEEKR, Lincoln Co. ZEEKR.
Cool.
So yeah,
You're living every kid's dream,
I'm living
every
the
male,
kid that.
every boy's
Yeah,
dream. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember my room. The wall in front of my desk was like filled with just drawings of and posters of cars and
That's awesome. Yeah,
all kinds.
yeah.
Yeah. So
It's funny. Like I feel like when you're a kid, when you're young, you have these kind of passions for automotive. Like I used to have like McLarens all over my walls when I was a kid. My friend used to sit there all day at school just sketching cars. But like a lot of
yeah,
these dreams just get kind of lost, and like a lot of people think you can't make a career out of it. But it's great.
yeah,
You really did it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's. I mean, I don't even know because it's unlikely sometimes. Like the chances of doing it,
Mm,
like growing up the way you grow up and from a family which actually doesn't have anything to do with cars.
mm,
Come from a very normal family. No sort of classic cars or anything like that. Just I think from a very early age, my parents and especially my brother, who's actually here as well, was always like, look, just follow your dream, like follow what you want to do.
yeah.
Was never this pressure of you have to be whatever, you have to be a doctor, you have to study, finance or whatever. It was like, okay, you're good at this, you enjoy this, we'll go and do it, and
Mm,
we'll figure it out somehow,
yeah.
you know.
It's a good way to live. I think you can get very consumed in trying to make a career out of things that you're not necessarily passionate about and trying to like just make money, like go for the goal of money. But if you go for the goal of finding something that you're really interested in, definitely in these like creative fields, I feel like you end up a lot more satisfied at the end.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think if you just let your natural talents flow, then you'll find your path. A lot of people worry about I think a lot of people worry about money. They worry about sort of Instagram success and all this kind of stuff nowadays, and they forget that actually what's most meaningful is what's really personal to you. At the end of the day, as long as you're happy doing whatever it is that you want to do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So just to move on from that, can you discuss how motive design has changed, how automotive design has changed over the years, and how you have adapted these changes into your professional practice? Maybe talk to the role of technology in shaping automotive design, and how designers have balanced functionality over aesthetics in creating new vehicles.
Yeah, I mean,
Vehicle systems.
yeah. To answer the first part of that question with regards to how automotive design has changed, let's say from a studio perspective, when I started in 2011, 10, 11, we were using sort of NURBS modeling, and but it was or it was very much compartmentalized. Like you were either a designer
Yeah,
of exteriors or interiors. You were either a clay modeler or you were a digital modeler, right? Or you were doing CMF or whatever. But it was very compartmentalized.
mm,
There wasn't uh, there weren't very many YouTube tutorials there weren't all these online design schools and mentorship programs that we have now.
Mm.
It was a very unknown um, industry, probably right up until, let's say, yeah, it's about 7 to 5 years ago, where
Mm.
Instagram really started. People really started taking to Instagram, posting their sketches and letting the wider world know that there was this whole other world of design that wasn't products or
Mm.
industrial or fashion. Not that they're any less of an industry, but they're probably more widely known.
Mm.
And then that's evolved, and then as that's evolved as well, the tools that we use have changed. So I'm in my sort of early to mid 30s now, and you're constantly working with young designers and younger people, and you're always learning. Like, it's so important to reinvent yourself
Mm.
constantly. Like, we can't just survive using one tool. Like, we're using Blender, we're using Unreal. I sit there and teach myself after my working day, after I've done my mentorship calls and all that kind of stuff. I'm sitting there learning Blender and how to render on it, how to do this and that and the other, poly modeling. Like, now 100% we're using poly modeling right the way up until in some instances, pre-release surfaces, you
Mm.
know. So that wasn't the case even a few years ago.
What
Like,
did you use instead of polymodding? It was all sculpting.
it was all alias NURBS modeling,
Alias. Okay,
you
yeah.
know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was all alias NURBS modeling.
Yeah.
With clay, so we'd do clay
I've never
scan.
even used Alias because it's not really like necessarily used in industrial design as much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Do you
more like
guys use
free
what
flow.
industrials, like more Rhino? Is it Fusion
We use
360
Rhino,
or?
Fusion, SolidWorks,
Mm,
sometimes like more like polygonal stuff like Blender, but it's pretty rare. It's more That's more if you're just doing like kind of just for like I like kind of reimagining the idea, but for actually manufacturing generally you have to use SolidWorks or
right.
Rhino or things like that. So
Yeah. Yeah. So your question, how automotive design has changed. I mean, so from a studio perspective, the
mm,
tools have changed massively. From a technology point of view, it's changed massively.
yeah.
Like, clay has not gone away, and I believe clay will never go away. I hope it never goes away, because we always need to have that human touch, to
Such a
it.
cool aspect of automotive design. Like I watched some videos about that. And it's just crazy, like how still to this day there's just massive clay models of cars out there that cost
Yeah.
like what like
Yeah.
hundreds of grand to make. It's just awesome how they still do that.
Yeah.
Like they really like connect with their roots in that field. Mm,
It's a yeah. And the thing is, like, when you've been seeing this thing on screen, and you've been seeing it on 2D, or you've seen it on the power wall or whatever, but you see the clay model, or you have multiple themes, and you put them out into the viewing garden, and you've got the Dynoc on, they've got all the sort of dress up and everything on there, and you see
mm,
like 2 or 3 themes that you guys have been working on for X amount of months, and they've been presented and beautifully finished by the clay modelers, and that in itself is a craft that takes years to
yeah.
master, but once you have those there, that's when you're like, oh wow, that's what it looks like. This
Mm,
is now gone from the screen to the actual real world.
mm,
So that fact is really important. But sadly, some of those aspects, some companies have reduced the clay process, and it's been taken over by VR and
yep.
virtual reality, and even augmented reality in some cases. People are experimenting with that, and now where suddenly everyone's playing with artificial intelligence and sort of whole mid-journey thing.
Journey, yeah.
So the tools are always going to evolve, but and so then that's from a studio perspective. And then I mean, if your question was more about how automotive design has changed, how the car has evolved, I don't know. I guess that's just a case of, again, lifestyle changes, people's requirements, needs have changed over time, you
Yeah.
know, that's a whole other thing.
Humans love innovation. Nothing can ever stay the same.
Yeah, I mean, they do and they don't. I'm lusting after a 1960s Lancia Fulvia. You know, I still love the 60s and 70s muscle cars.
I really
With
like
just
old stuff as well. I agree. I think like oh, this is one of my questions later on. I feel like old design is arguably like it's just so nice on the it's so like soft on the eyes in a lot of ways.
mm,
And I feel
Is
like
that
that's
why you've
something.
got that vintage camera there on top of your
Yeah,
books?
yeah, vintage camera. Where's my lighter?
The same camera that I've got right here.
Oh yeah. What do you
Yeah,
got?
it's an Olympus OM10
Oh yeah,
from
they're really
I
good.
think 1982.
Look at this.
Nice.
1950s Leica.
Oof,
Got
well, I better
Canon,
put my.
got a
I
Canon
can't beat
lens, but
that. I can't beat that.
this thing is legit. It's what, like 70 years old and it still works
But it's
perfectly.
got weight to it, right?
It's not even that heavy to be honest, and like it's so
No,
small with
but
the hands.
as in you've there's a tactility to it. There's a
Yeah,
weight to it.
the whole thing is legit just made of metal.
Yeah, you like you
Like no
feel
plastic.
the robustness of it,
Yeah,
and I think you can't replace that feeling with plastic.
yeah, exactly.
There's something about so if you get into not the current the brand new Mustang, but the 2018 refresh model, and even the S550 Mustang,
Mm,
they really did a good job with having these toggle switches,
mm,
for the hazard lights and for some of the controls and stuff. And there was a really a nice feeling, when you sit in the lights and you just flick the switch to switch your mode. You
yeah,
can do it for stereo, but they just purposely had this kind of vintage, really nice feeling machine kind of
mm,
switch just to click. It makes that clicking sound as well.
yeah,
And I don't think that should ever go away. Like I know these
yeah.
Teslas have massive
I
iPad
really don't
screens.
like the concept of like how now with modern cars like Teslas, for example, they're just removing everything and it's just you have one screen. Like I understand the idea, it's very futuristic and but like you lose from like a user experience perspective, you lose that kind of connection with the car to the human.
It's also, I mean,
Yeah,
my opinion is kind of dangerous because, like
yeah, it
before,
is
I can
dangerous.
just,
Yeah,
without taking my eyes off the road, I know what
yeah,
what switch to press or whatever. I'm
mm,
just like, cool, yeah, the heater's on or heater's off or AC or whatever.
yeah.
And now you just got this smooth screen and you don't know what's going on.
Yeah,
You know,
it's risky.
so
Even with like cameras, like I like how this camera's got all knobs and everything is you can do everything on the camera. Modern day
yeah,
cameras, there's like you have to do most of the things in the screen with a lot of smaller cameras. Like or there's
yeah,
like you press this knob and then you have to change to multiple things. Like there's just too much to do.
yeah,
Whereas like
yeah,
I feel like that's like the I don't know, I feel like in a way design has kind of gone too far in that aspect. Like they're trying to like minimal make everything so minimal that you lose
yeah,
the user experience aspect of it. And it's just kind of this
yeah.
like this, jagged jagged device that's not particularly easy to use.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's personal taste, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's how automotive design, I guess, is evolving, and but
Mm.
we'll see what happens as time goes on.
Do you think it might
And
move back to some degree to like that more controls and things like that?
I think that always happens. Like, there's
Yeah.
always this case of like new technology, let's everyone get on board, and it goes to a point, and then it starts winding back a little bit to a point where people feel happy.
Yeah.
There's a point where people feel like, okay, this is where we need to be with it. This is where we need to kind of like sit with that technology. You know,
Yeah.
and that's the kind of sweet spot. Right now, we're in this massive experimental stage. I mean, car design right now is insane. I mean, the industry right now is crazy
Yeah.
with excitement. I mean, everyone's excited. Like, there's all these projects kicking off, and all these new cars coming out, and like technologies that are being played with and stuff. And sorry, as I said, I'm just having a cigar, so
Get
hopefully
into
none of
it.
you will be offended by that. But yeah, but and um, so it's a great time to be in car design right
Mm.
now. You know,
Yeah.
we're just playing with a lot of technologies, and experimenting with what we can do, and not just powertrain, not just electric,
Mm.
but also what electric can enable,
Mm.
So yeah, we don't know and that's what design is all about. It's about not knowing. It's about
Mm.
the design journey,
Constant
enjoying
evolution as
that
well.
journey.
Yeah.
Pardon?
Constant evolution as well, I feel like is
Yeah, evolution as well, like
yeah.
finding solutions which you might not have been looking for.
Mm.
You're trying to design X, but you end up finding something else on that design journey.
Yeah.
think that that process is very important, which is something I try to explain to, the guys and girls on my mentorship program, that like show the process. Like I see so many portfolios. I saw a portfolio just the other day, and it was like everything was finished,
Mm,
everything was super perfect and polished. And
mm,
I'm like, I want to see your thoughts. Like, how do you think? This doesn't tell me about your personality. I want to know, like, what are those little cool little doodles that you're doing?
yeah.
And they're so important to bring out and to show, because that's where your personality is.
Mm,
You
yeah.
know.
Yeah, no, I graduated uni and formed my portfolio, and like recently I've gone back and started working on it because I realized that I was just wasn't telling a particular narrative by it. Like each project was kind of static and got to the conclusion quite quickly and didn't really have much of a story behind it. So I've gone back and I feel like that's like one thing that a lot of graduates kind of miss out on, is that like narrative that portfolio tells, because like ultimately each project in the portfolio is meant to communicate some sort of message to the employer, like whether that's
Mm,
like this specific skill you're trying to show off or the process that you
right.
follow, things like that. But if you don't have the narrative, it's just you're not really going to easily communicate it, because they're not going to sit there and read all these words to understand it. They want to visually see it as well.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah.
yeah, we're designers, and ultimately our communication tool is drawing. Our core communication tool is drawing.
Yeah.
And if you can't do that successfully, or you can't show that, then
Mm,
nobody's going to understand how you think, how you got there.
mm, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Exploring
Um,
the guests from for an ideation and final production process, would you like to discuss the importance of collaboration in your field specifically? Because I know in industrial design it's a very collaborative field. Is it the same with automotive design, or is it more of like a hide in your office kind of thing and come up with amazing ideas?
no, massively
Absolutely
collaborative.
crazy.
Like yeah, hugely collaborative. We have really energetic teams, and even guys that have been around, and people that have been around for I don't know, 20, 25, 30 years in the industry are still very young at heart.
Mm,
And that's what I love. Like I can sit there and have a conversation with somebody who's a senior manager or a chief or whatever, and they've still got that sparkle in the eye, that they love the industry.
yeah,
you know and so we sit down together as a team, and that whole everybody contributes, everyone
yeah.
contributes to it. So yeah, collaboration's a huge
Mm,
factor, and in at work, in the studio, and also outside as well. It's very important that we do go out together, from time to time, and you know uh do team building things. I know that kind of sounds corny, like team building things, but like even if you just go karting,
mm,
or whatever, go for some drinks or whatever,
yeah.
it helps you to, yeah. So
Mm. Yeah, no, I think it's really amazing the design industry. Like people are just so passionate about their work. Like you talk to people from other fields, and like obviously there would be some fields that are the same, but I think a lot of fields you talk to, they're kind of like, oh yeah, I used to really enjoy it, but now I don't
like the
really.
mortgage industry or something.
Well, even more, even things like I don't really want to mention specifically what it was, but like my friend, he been working in this field which he really loved for years, and then kind of recently has come to the point where he doesn't really like it anymore and kind of has
Yeah,
become like bitter about it. Whereas like I've
yeah,
spoken to so many, like on this podcast and even just through uni and stuff, I've spoken to so many people who've been in the industry for like 20, 30 years, maybe even more. And you can see
yeah,
still to this day they're just so passionate about it.
yeah, because there's always something new. Like
Mm,
every single design journey is new.
yeah.
You're always looking and something. I actually, going back to collaboration. um obviously connected with yourself via LinkedIn, and but
Mm,
I've connected with some really interesting people on
mm,
LinkedIn, on other sides of the world, that was unlikely that we would have ever crossed paths,
yeah.
if it weren't for LinkedIn. And we've had some great conversations, and potential future projects that might kick
Mm,
off from it, without any intentions at all, just through a conversation. We're like, actually, that could be quite cool. Maybe
mm,
we should try it out. Or
mm,
let's just kind of just see what happens.
mm,
Put some ideas together. Um, so I think the whole digital thing, connectivity and all that really plays a part as well in
Mm,
collaboration. And
yeah.
then that goes hand in hand with being passionate and youthful about the industry, and always having a sense of excitement about the project that you're working on.
Mm. Yeah, no, I definitely think I started basically using LinkedIn probably a year ago. And like I would recommend to any graduate or, student designer to get into it while they're young, start building that network because like even with the podcast, I've connected with so many people around the world now, and it's like these are contacts that I will keep, forever. Like it's basically like a
Yeah,
database of my network.
you're
And
building relationships.
yeah, building relationships.
It's about building relationships.
Mhm.
So
And everyone's so friendly on LinkedIn as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even sometimes I'll reach out to, the big fish of the design scene, and most of them are
yeah,
really friendly and just happy to, chat. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I've found exactly the same thing. A lot of support in the industry.
Yeah.
Despite what you might think, coming in as a young designer or as a graduate designer, you might feel a little bit intimidated. But honestly, like I've worked in multiple countries. Wherever I've landed, I've just made friends, and it's
Yeah.
been awesome. It's been so good. You know,
Mm.
I wouldn't change that at all.
I think there's a bit of like I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in Australia, there's like a bit of a gap between like graduates and industry. Like the
Hmm.
even just like from like a relationship perspective, like a lot of graduates feel like they don't really know that many people in industry and like they don't have any really idea of what industry is like. That's why I started the podcast. So like we could kind of remove that barrier a bit and people could just talk to I mean could see conversations with people from all around the world in those kind of professional fields.
Yeah,
And like I feel like a lot of people have like responded well to it. Like a lot of graduates message me and they really enjoy just like talking to the people or like seeing conversations with the people they look up to because I feel like it kind of removes that barrier. Like they're like, oh, that's just a normal person. I could be like that person one day if I work hard, you know? Whereas like
yeah,
if you don't see a conversation with them, you just think of that person as like on this pedestal as like
yeah,
they're, you're never really gonna get there kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and so that interaction with people, but exactly, it's as soon as you interact and put yourself forward, and speak to people,
Yeah.
the barriers are brought down, and then you realize actually how accessible people are and how
Mm.
friendly people actually are.
Exactly.
And yeah, yeah, that. So you're an industrial designer, is that
Yeah,
right?
industrial design.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So, and
graduate
is
industrial designer. So
graduate? Yeah, well, graduate doesn't matter. It's still industrial design, right?
yeah, yeah.
So, um, so like, do you see the similarity as well, like the
It's
crossover between?
interesting because like I'm trying to branch out a bit. I'm trying to get more people from all different fields of design because I really feel like we all have the same kind of like we all have the same passion really. So it's very easy to
Yeah,
communicate. Like it doesn't really matter what you're designing, you're still a designer kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
But specifically, like I think I was going to talk to you about this. In Australia, we have a much smaller market than you do overseas. And for
Mm,
that reason, we don't have as many like specialized designers. So like I'd say you're probably more of a specialized designer because you specialize in automotive design. Like some people in Australia design like vehicles, but they're not automotive designers. They're just industrial designers, right? Whereas you specifically design vehicles and work in the automotive industry.
yeah.
So here we have like generally more generalized designers. We have there would be automotive designers, but there's a lot less need for someone who's that specialized here.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, but it's really quite interesting because I have a lot of friends like who are specifically interested in automotive design, but I think they struggle to find like a job in Australia for just
Yeah.
working as that.
Hmm.
But is it you're saying there's a lot of opportunities overseas for it?
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends where you sell overseas.
Yeah,
I mean, Europe, Asia. Obviously, you're Australia. I mean, you're closer to Asia than
yeah,
we are, right?
yeah,
So, I mean, Japan's an amazing place to work. I did my internship in Japan. I would recommend anyone to even go and visit Japan.
yeah,
If you have a spare 2 to 3 weeks, go and check it out, man. Japan's an awesome
yeah.
place.
It
It's
looks amazing. I've
so
been to there.
underrated. Like, I know so many people that go traveling to Asia. Hey, I'm going traveling to Asia. Oh, where you gonna? I'm gonna go to Thailand. I'm gonna go into Indonesia. I was like, you're gonna go to Japan. They're like, what's in Japan like? Like, no, seriously, like you need to go to Japan. It's so good.
Japan's the
It's
first on my list in Asia.
huh?
Japan's the
It's
first on my list.
yeah. Well, yeah. It's
Yeah,
probably because you're from Australia and you know you more know more about it. But like
maybe.
certainly
Yeah.
people, yeah, like a lot of my friends and you know acquaintances, they've traveled to Asia. They've been everywhere else except for Japan, and I'm just like you need to go there. It's such a cool place, and like your brain cells buzz with ideas. I don't know what it is, something in the water or what, but like your brain cells buzz with ideas when you're there. It's just such an influential environment, you know.
Mm,
Such a cool place to be as well. You know, if you're especially if you're a designer. Um, I've got books from Kenya Hara and some Japanese architects. I don't know if you're aware of Kenya Hara.
no.
He's a Japanese industrial designer, um, and like some of his design philosophies are amazing. And you've got yeah, I mean, there's some Japanese architects. Their name escapes my mind at the moment,
Mm,
but they're just on another level. You know, they do things their way, completely different to anyone else. They've got their own distinct style, and I think it also comes through in the automotive design. So if you go to Japan as an automotive designer, you're going to see cars there which aren't available anywhere else. You
yeah.
know, and some of the technologies that are in the car and design solutions that are in the car are just wacky, just very specific to their domestic market, which is so
Mm,
unique. You know, and I think
yeah.
it's really important as a designer also to travel to
Mm,
understand cultures and people. You know,
mm,
so but yeah, going back to obviously what you were saying, there are opportunities overseas. So yeah, if you've got, you know, if you're a graduate designer in Australia and you want to spread your wings a little bit, then yeah, by all means, you know, get over to Europe or the US or you know whatever. Really, I think that's the good thing about being a designer. You can choose where you want to kind of be, like
mm,
geography wise. You
mm.
know,
It's a very
if you
transferable skill.
exactly, like, you know, if
Mm,
you really resonate with working in Europe, in Italy, for example, and you're a big fan of Italian design and you want to be in the thick of it, you know, you want to be at Milan Design Week and all this kind of stuff, then you know you can do that. You can find a job in Italy and be in that culture, you know,
mm,
and experience that. And I think it just makes you a richer person
mm.
experience wise, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I do think it's interesting. Like, just going back to Japan, there, have you heard of Christopher Dresser, the early like 19th century designer? Well, yeah, he
No.
basically like designed in I think he's American, designed in America or Europe. Well, anyway, he was away from Asia, and
Uh-huh.
the design was very very rigid and basic. They hadn't really had any specific industrial design flair at the time.
Hmm.
And he went to Japan on holidays and came back, and like the designs he did were just completely different to anything they'd
So
seen before.
he's a okay. He's a British designer. He was a British
British
designer.
designer, British designer.
Yeah. So
Yeah, check out
okay.
Christopher Dresser. Like he's
Yeah.
crazy. Okay, but like the difference from before to after, like it had going to Japan had such an influence because that what they were doing in Japan was just completely different to anything like in Europe at the time.
Yeah.
Hmm. And yeah, it's quite interesting how like having um influence from some country. Like that's why I feel like traveling. Like you're completely right. Traveling is everything
Yeah.
because if you
Yeah. I'm
stay
just
in one
looking at
country, you're not going to absorb any new information. You're kind of just going to get the same stuff over and over.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm just looking at some of his work. Like he's got some teapots and kettles and stuff like that. And yeah, it's not anything that you would see for that time period.
Yeah,
You
like it
know,
looks like it look.
completely different to that era of British design.
Yeah, it
It's just
looks like
completely
something
different.
from maybe the modern day, not modern day, but like you know what I mean, like maybe Art Deco period or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but
More
this was like
advanced for
the
his time.
when was it 1800s or something? It's crazy.
Yeah, I think he was no, it was like early last century.
So like Alessi's done reproductions of his stuff in the modern day.
Yeah, so you can see Alessi in that
Yeah,
work, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But no, I think what are your this is off script, but what are your feelings on the history of design? Like, do you think it's very important as a designer to stay up to date with and like a foundation in like the history of design, or do you think it's not really that important these days?
Well, I mean, you can learn from history, right?
Mm,
Like you just told me about Christopher Dresser. I'm gonna have a look into his work, and it's good to know that there was that designer who was working on these things, and to see how that person was influenced by certain culture, or a set of art movements or something.
mm,
Um, I studied art history at college, and fine arts and stuff. So, I have an appreciation for history as well. Like generally, history in general, I'm a big fan of history.
mm,
So yeah, for me, I think and I love looking back at old design stories.
mm.
How a car came together back in those days, and the kind of difficulties of putting together a particular car that is now iconic or something. So I think there are roots that you need to understand, and looking at it from a car design point of view, if you're working for a company like, just let's say Volkswagen, and you're designing one of their key products like the Golf, you need to be aware of some of the very important features of a Golf, some of the key important lines, the key
Mm.
lines that defines a
The
Golf
design
and a
language.
yeah, the design language, but there's some key lines that have always been in the Golf.
Mm,
So if you look at the rear quarter panel, there's this kind of boomerang shape. So if you look at the Golf 7, even the current Golf, you look at the original Golf by Giugiaro, first generation, there's like behind the rear door,
mm.
there's like a boomerang shape, like
Yeah.
this graphic that's then evolved through the ages. That's just one example. Then there are other brands that have other historic features that are kind of cornerstones to their identity. So it's important to understand history, of a particular brand, especially if you're working for them as a designer.
Mm. Yeah, I think that we've mentioned this in the podcast before, but specifically in terms of creating new idea generation, like I feel like a lot of time if you're just looking on Google or on Pinterest boards or whatever, you're gonna just get the same information that all designers are getting, and like it's not
Mm,
really gonna give new information that someone else hasn't already seen. So I feel like
yeah,
sometimes going back and looking at history and actually learning more, like I've been learning more about history over the last few months, the
yeah,
history of industrial design, and like the ideas I've come up with, even just looking to the past, are amazing. I think it's like
mm,
something because in my degree we didn't even really do much design history, but I do
yeah.
think it is very, very important field to be in.
Yeah, it is. It is, and like there's something about having a bunch of books on your shelf.
Hmm.
I've got some books behind me, stacked up, and yeah, and something nice about just flicking through them and finding something that someone else might not be looking at.
Yeah.
You know, because you might have a book which has an image in it which isn't widely published, for example.
Hmm.
Or not many people know about it. Pinterest. Funny you say Pinterest because I've seen in the last 2 weeks, I've seen two portfolios,
Hmm.
completely different people. They have nothing to do with each other, so there's no sense of plagiarism or anything. But they've used the same image in their sort of influence kind of inspiration board, and it's come from Pinterest.
Yeah.
You know, so it's exactly what you said. You're looking at the same thing. You're
Hmm.
looking at that thing over and over again on Google or Pinterest or whatever. And we did when I was teaching at Coventry University, I was teaching part time, just once or twice a week, and we did like just a little seminar with a few industry guys, and talking to the students about various things about lifestyle and mental health and all this kind of stuff. And one of the designers said, it's really important to get away from the desk, get away from the screen, and just go for a walk,
Hmm.
you know, or go on a holiday, or go somewhere you've never been before, and absorb the culture, absorb the art, absorb the architecture,
Hmm.
and come back refreshed with a new set of ideas, you know. So that element, really plays hand in hand. It's not good sitting at your desk going through Google.
Hmm. Yeah, I think as well, even like there's various things that play into that, like even sketching, for example. Like I
Yeah.
was always doing digital sketching, and recently I've got back into physical sketching. And I think that
Mm.
like if you're always looking at a screen all day anyway, like if you're sketching also on a screen, it's just like you're never looking at anything but a screen. And
Mm,
like I feel like looking away from the screen, and even just like I don't know, I've been really enjoying physical sketching, but um like things like that are really important. And like even like generally when I'm at home for like 8 hours doing work on something, I will go out and just go for a walk midday. Because
yeah.
like if you're sitting there for 8 hours straight just looking at a screen, your workflow is not going to be as good as if you take a break and get outside.
It's also not good for your hamstrings or your back, right?
Yeah,
So, you know, you
that as
need
well,
to
yeah.
stretch your legs and also your mind as well. So
Mm,
give your eyes a bit of a break. So yeah, and then the whole thing of mental health comes into play, which you have to look after yourself. Like you
mm,
can end up burning out. I burnt out early on in my career,
mm,
not massively, but
mm,
I felt it. I felt
mm.
I started getting migraines and all kinds of stuff, and I was like, okay, I need to sort my lifestyle out.
Yeah.
I have to, the physical and the mental together to be able to perform optimally.
Mm,
Come Monday and you're busy, then you have to perform. You
mm,
know, like yeah, you're passionate about what you do. Yes, all of that stuff,
mm,
but you have to deliver. You know,
mm,
people are depending on you to get that whatever piece of work done in any which way you can. To the highest expected level. And in order for you to constantly do that over the course of your career, man, it's so important to have like little wins in your weekend, like doing things that you enjoy or hanging out, whatever it is, skateboarding. I see you got some skateboards back there. So
mm,
whatever that may be, you have to have that.
mm. What are your tactics for kind of alleviating that pressure? Like you already mentioned, kind of doing outside activities, but anything else you can recommend for people who, maybe feeling like they're in that position, like they're constantly under pressure to deliver, and they struggle with that.
Well, I don't know if I could recommend anything, but I can tell you. I mean, for me, what's worked is I really like being out, sort of going for walks,
Mm,
being going like I was up in the Lake District in the UK like a couple of weekends ago. Just seeing the beauty, like going up high in the mountains, and not
mm,
mountains, but we don't have such things in the UK as high as that. But yeah, being out in nature,
mm,
having being in close contact with that is one thing. Having a good social life, speaking to friends if you're struggling with something, even if you're struggling at work, like you feel like a lot of designers suffer from imposter syndrome, you
mm.
know,
Yeah.
if you're feeling that, like talk to your friends, talk to your friends who are designers who will understand, and that connection helps to build community. Reach out to people because community is really, really important.
Mm,
Having
definitely.
having someone around you, or having a group of people around you to talk to about your might just be a thought. It might just be a small insecurity, but it's all right, So that helps. For me, like working out is really important, having a good diet, but this is personal, like
Yep.
having a good diet, looking after myself, going to the gym, 4 to 5 times a week, and
Mm,
like that for me is my release. I was talking to my brother recently, and he was like, yeah, he goes, yeah, I've just joined this really cool gym, I love, got out the sauna and all this stuff. And I used to do that stuff
mm,
before the pandemic. And
mm.
after the pandemic, I just joined you know, just a normal ass gym, nothing special. You go there, you do work out, come home.
Yeah.
And I was like, actually got me thinking. I was like, do you know what? I used to do that. I should really start doing that again.
Mm,
And I started doing, sauna a few times a week
mm,
and going to the pool and stuff again. I used to swim pretty much every day before the pandemic. So I started doing that again. And immediately, I was sleeping better. I was
mm.
eating better. I was generally feeling better,
Yeah.
you know.
Sauna's really
So
good for you. It has so many benefits.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So for me, I wouldn't don't know if I could recommend it, but for me that works.
Yeah. Mm,
You got to get out of your skin sometimes. You have to get out your office. You have to
mm.
get out your studio environment and just go and do something that you enjoy in the weekend.
Having that work-life balance.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, yeah. Is that the same for you as well? Like
Yeah.
you enjoy it? Yeah,
Well, I'm in this middle stage at the moment with like getting into my first position as industrial designer. But
yeah.
I do definitely feel like that even over COVID, I was doing uni, remotely, and I was spending like 8 hours a day, maybe even more, like up to like 10 hours, 12 hours a day, every day in my office. And
It's
like I
brutal.
ended up like
It's
losing my
brutal.
mind just about.
Yeah, it's brutal. I mean,
I
I
think
think we've all done that at university. You know, we've
yeah.
all done the all-nighters, and like I had my flat was overlooking like the university library. We had a really nice library, um, and there was a canal going down the bottom of the apartment, just in
Mm.
case you felt like jumping. But you know, and then you had the library, and I'd be working through the night, so I'd see the library lights go down,
Mm.
and you'd see the city go to sleep, and you're working, and you're working,
Mm.
you're working, and you're still working when the sun's coming up and the city comes back to life again.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing. I mean, you feel messed up, you know.
Mm.
You don't want to do stuff like that for a long
I
time,
used to do
you
that
know.
in England when I lived there because like clubs
Oh,
close
you
so
used to live in
late.
England?
Yeah, I used to live in
Where,
London.
where, where? Oh, okay. In
Yeah,
like actual central, in
not
London or in the
central
UK?
London, but I used to live
Okay,
like North London, like Enfield out that area.
okay. Because the
Yeah,
thing is, right, when you speak to my family, so I have some
yeah,
family in India, right? Like some, cousins and
yeah.
uncles or whatever, right? They don't call the UK, they call it London.
No, yeah, yeah.
So it's
It's funny when
confusing.
people do that. They do that like, oh, you're from Australia, so you live in Sydney, and it's like, no,
Yeah,
Australia is actually massive. Like you can't even comprehend
yeah,
how big Australia is.
yeah, yeah. So they're like, "Oh, you're from London." I was like, "No, I'm from the UK."
Where do you live in the UK?
London, no.
You-
Yeah, I live in no, I'm in the West Midlands, so near Coventry,
Oh, okay, Coventry, yeah.
basically where all the car companies and everything is.
Yeah, yeah, true. I used to work at the McLaren head like dealer. No, it's not a
Oh,
dealer. It's like
MTC?
the one that's like it's like underground part of
Yeah,
it.
MTC, the
So,
headquarters,
yeah, I
right?
used to work there as a waiter and bartender, so it's quite
Oh
funny.
wait, oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. When was that?
2017, I think. Yeah, 2017, 2018.
I was there as well around that time,
Oh,
I
really?
think.
You know the massive
2018.
building underground? It's like a hump when you look at the top, and it's like a
Yeah,
big
the
circle.
MTC,
Is that
the
MTC?
McLaren
Okay.
Technology Center.
And there's
Yeah,
all the old cars at the bottom, like in that room.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
yeah,
I used
yeah.
to work there and do like events for
Oh,
boats
wicked.
and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, maybe we might have crossed paths.
Well, I think the ones I usually worked on, they were just like tech people usually. I never
Yeah,
saw any
yeah.
like automotive designers. They always like they
Would you walk down the boulevard like during the daytime and stuff?
not really, no. I basically just
Oh,
worked
okay.
in that area. Yeah.
All right.
We weren't
Just
allowed to like walk around the whole premise, so it was more just that
oh,
section.
okay.
Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, I got you. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
That was cool.
Oh, cool. Nice. Yeah, good. Small world.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean originally I'm from the north of England, so
Mm.
northwest of England, so
I was born in Cornwall.
you what, sorry?
I was born in Cornwall.
Oh, you were born in Cornwall.
Yeah, I moved to Australia when I was a kid and then came back when I was 18. So
You moved with your parents or
yeah, my mum. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
We're
cool.
born in like opposite sides of England.
Yeah, 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 cool. And then do you go back to
Not as
Cornwall?
much as I'd like. My dad lives in London, so I would like to go back,
Right.
but
Yeah,
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 hopefully soon. I I feel like I just want to get more experiences overseas. Like I spent a year in London, but um yeah, especially as a designer now. Like when I left the UK, I met a guy in London actually who was a graphic designer, and he was one of my friends, and he basically said that like he thinks I should become a designer because I have the right like aptitude for it and I'm a very creative person. He was like, why are you going into like other fields? Like you're suited for this field.
mm,
And I feel like in a way, like going to Europe shaped, me becoming a designer. And like that's the reason why I went
yeah,
down that path. So it would be
yeah,
interesting to go back as an adult, as more of an adult now and
mm,
kind of see the way things have changed and understand things from more of a design perspective now and look
yeah.
for design because I feel like I missed out on so many experiences because I didn't have that mindset at the time.
And
Mm.
London's a really cool place as well. Like, and you've got a natural history museum,
Yeah.
you've got a Tate and all that kind of whatever. You've got all the design museums and everything in London. And you also have some really good industrial and general design houses as well. Like
Yeah.
you've got
Yep.
Priestman Good,
Pentagram.
yeah, Priestman Good, and what's the big one called? I can't
Pentagram?
remember.
Isn't Pentagram the
Which one?
biggest?
Seymour
Pentagram.
Powell. We've got Seymour Powell.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, and just to name a couple, but yeah, just a lot happening there as well. As a
Mm.
scene, as a design scene, I think it'd be pretty cool as an industrial designer to be in London.
It's such a good design, London. Like, obviously, it's not in a lot of ways as well, but like when you look at the tube map, like it looks like chaos, but really, it's such a good
I
design.
it's so easy to get
You
around.
can
It
get
literally is.
anywhere
It's so
pretty much by train.
yeah,
It's just amazing.
it's
Like when
fine.
you like you
Yeah,
compare that to Brisbane, like we're going a bit off topic here, but you compare that to Brisbane and we have like I don't know, like four train lines maybe at the most, and they're all overground. So like
mhm.
basically you can't really get anywhere by train. Like unless you're going in like a straight line to the city, you're pretty much screwed. So
Oh dear. Yeah, no, for that, yeah, absolutely. London. I mean, unless it's rush hour,
yeah,
the underground's like perfect. Like I've driven in London twice.
yeah,
Never again will I do that ever. I won't drive in and I refuse.
yeah,
Like, no way, not doing it. Like
yeah,
the bus drivers are crazy in London.
yeah,
They will totally wipe you out if they could. You know, wouldn't do it again.
yeah,
You know, I just bought an S2. This is 2015. I'd bought an S2. I'd moved back from Germany, and I was like, cool. I want to get it. You know, I bought an S2000, and I was going to go and see one of my friends, and then I was like, oh yeah, I'll take the car. You know,
yeah.
man, last time I did that, that was it. So yeah,
You have to pay to go in the center of London as well. It's £10 to, is it probably more
yeah,
now?
pretty well now.
Yeah.
Well, that's how long I've not driven in London. I don't even know. So
Yeah.
yeah, train.
Anyway, we'll get back on topic.
Yeah.
What are the biggest challenges facing automotive designers today? In terms of like, things like environmental regulations, changing consumer preferences. What are the big things you think that are going to affect it in the future?
Sorry, changing in what preferences?
So changing, it could be like changing consumer preferences or
Oh,
environmental
consumer
things like that.
preferences.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are the
Oh
big things
well,
you think are shaping it? Yeah.
big changes. I mean, I think for us, it's trying to. That's a very broad question. We're constantly faced with challenges
Yeah.
from packaging to aero to meeting all the
Yeah.
regs. You know, for PED with like pedestrian protection. You know, there's always new safety laws, and I think the biggest one is what people don't realize is big companies like like Mercedes-Benz, BMW, any of the multinational OEMs that sell the same model that they sell in the UK, across Europe, in China and Asia, and in the US and Australia and everywhere else, that if you buy a BMW 3 Series in the UK, or you buy it in Japan, or you buy it in the US, essentially that car it's the same car. Like you get into that car here and you get it in the US, yeah, the driving side will be switched. But other than that, like the level of quality, um, the sort of safety rating for the car, to pull that feature off is so difficult. People don't actually realize how difficult that is. We
Hmm.
have to jump through so many loopholes because the federal laws are different to the European laws, which are different to some of the Australian and the Asian, and et cetera, et cetera. So it's fine to do a sketch of a car, but then to actually execute that and then to deliver it in reality, I mean, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
That's a huge, huge challenge. And then now obviously we're bringing in, electric, and then so in the UK this week it's just been announced that the 2023 Ford Mustang Mach-E can be legally put onto kind of a self-drive mode where you can just put it on and let go of the steering wheel and let it do its thing. You know, and that but then I don't know if in Germany that's doable or not,
Hmm.
or if it in Italy or wherever, so they've obviously had to negotiate with so then that's the whole legislation side of things. In terms of design, that obviously feeds back into directly into design. Like
Hmm.
sometimes you've got the back, you probably saw the old overrider bumpers that they used to put on BMWs in America. Mercedes had these massive rubber add-ons in the
Hmm.
US, onto a European car because they didn't meet the federal laws.
Hmm.
So stuff like that, that plays a huge part with what we do. We have to make sure that those things are covered within the design
Yeah.
from the get-go.
It would be
We
really
have.
hard to design something to fit with all these regulations because I feel like I mean
Imagine you had to do that with an iPhone. Imagine you had
yeah,
to do that with an iPhone,
yeah,
right?
yeah, but
That's
it's a bit different I suppose with like product
yeah.
design specifically.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, for
I
sure.
mean, even with Formula One, it's kind of similar with Formula One. Like, there's the amount of regulations that constantly change every year. Obviously, it's even stricter. It's way more stricter with Formula One, but like, it's like you're trying to make something happen with all these different parameters. Yeah, it'd be quite hard. Even like moving into styling, is that the reason why the style of a vehicle has changed so much over the years because of regulations?
Style with what regard?
Like the design of a vehicle has changed so much from like the 80s to now, right? Like is that just customer
Yeah,
preference or is that also
yeah.
regulation?
Cars have gotten bigger. Cars have gotten massive. I
Yeah.
mean, cars are really chubby right now. I mean, you look at a Mini. Minis are huge.
Yeah.
You stand next to a Countryman from the '60s. You know, the original Countryman. You look at the new Countryman. I mean, that's massive. You
Yeah.
know, but it's not at the fault. If we as designers could do whatever we wanted to do, we probably wouldn't do that. We wouldn't make a car chubby. You know,
Yeah.
we'd we'd slim it down. We'd have the perfect proportions, and it would be,
Mm,
everything would look awesome all the time.
mm,
You know, not to say Mini Countryman doesn't look awesome, but beauty is in the eye of the beholder. You know,
mm,
but it's like we've got to package so much into it, like wiring looms and side impact airbags and curtain airbags and all of this stuff that's now around. And then obviously now we've got screens and all the wiring that goes with that. And so cars are getting taller and wider and thicker, and
mm,
so yeah, the styling is impacted by it. And
mm,
we do our best to stick to the original concept as much as we possibly can.
mm,
There's this thing, and I guess every design studio works in a slightly different way, but you don't want to design something mediocre to start with. Like you
mm,
want to really give it the full send to
mm.
start with, because you're not going to get that. Like
Yeah.
all the departments are going to basically chip away at it. Like Aero's going to throw it out. There's going to say, well, that's not going to work. We're going to need to change this,
Mm,
that, the other. The engineers are going to say, well, we can't do this or that, the other. We need to change whatever. We have to try and work together with all these departments
mm,
to hold on to that original concept as
mm,
much as we possibly can, and homologate it and make sure it meets the regs and everything
mm.
and still look good.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a
Yes.
lot of hoops to jump through, I feel like, of automotive design. Like, I mean, you do have all design, like with industrial design, you have more like manufacturing and engineering.
Mm,
Whereas with you guys, you've got the aero component as well.
yeah.
It makes it even harder, I suppose, because it has to fit those
Yeah.
regulations. I mean, with
Mm.
supercars, it's not as important, I suppose. But it is, I suppose, for speed. But
It is. I mean, with supercars. So working at McLaren, I
yeah,
mean, it was very intense. Like
really, okay.
aero is super important. Obviously the cooling, like the engineering part of it. So it has to be lightweight. You
Mm,
know, in fact, with supercars, probably more, because you have to jump through all of the hoops that a regular car company has to jump through. A passenger vehicle like a
yep.
Volkswagen Polo. So a McLaren has to do exactly those regulations,
Mm,
because it's a road car, so it has to. And then, yeah, it's going to be sold globally, so it's a global car, so it has to jump through those hoops. Plus the cooling, the aero, the lightweight, the performance.
mm,
So
mm.
um, yeah.
The process you follow, like, does it start off from you come up with the crazy design, like for a supercar, I mean, you come up with a crazy design, you pitch it forward, and then the other people kind of criticize it, or is it like the aero guy says it needs to follow this aero structure, and then you design around that? Like, how does the process work generally?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, we'll create our vision,
Yep,
and depends. Like sometimes we're just going to do a show car, right?
yep,
So for a show car, there isn't much of that outside influence because we don't need to worry about some of those things.
yep,
For a show car, it's relatively open. It's a really fun thing to do, and we can create a vision, a DNA, and all this kind of stuff. And then going forward from that, when we want to productionize something, yes, we have a we have a package to work with. There are certain hard points that we have to meet.
mm,
There's maybe so carryover parts play a huge thing. which is, cost saving. So it could be from another program. So it could be from another vehicle program, like a wiper package or a headlight package or whatever that may be. Maybe it's
Mm,
it's a complete engine that we're carrying over and
mm,
that has cooling requirements or something that's going to impact something, right?
mm,
And so we've got to take that into consideration quite early on.
mm,
Uh, so the vision part of it is really fun. It's awesome. It's such a
mm,
great process to do. But then that quickly becomes very serious and that, right, okay, we've got deadlines, we've got gateways to meet. Obviously, there's a program team involved and, stakeholders and so on and so forth. So yeah, we quickly have to adapt the design to those
mm.
new things. But, the good thing is there's always a possibility for us to, it's not all design having to compromise. That's often how it's seen. But actually, we do have the opportunity to push back and say, well, actually, it is important for us to have this. And, the engineering, the aero teams, they work with us as opposed to against us
Mm.
to help us to develop that vision,
Yeah.
because it's a joint effort. We're all trying to achieve a really good looking car, which is going to sell and it's going to perform and it's going to tick all the boxes.
Mm.
So it's in everyone's interest to help each other. So
Yeah.
we do have a good working relationship with those departments that we say, well, look, we really want to try and keep this feature. We think it's a USP. We think it's the identity of the car. So then that particular aero or engineering or whatever team, they'll figure a way out,
Mm.
to make that work. You know.
Yeah.
So
You
yeah.
know, it's a really interesting field to be in because you've got those factors, and then even like from from a design perspective, like I feel like you're very much in like a visual aesthetic design perspective. Like a lot of industrial design these days ends up being very limited on the fact of styling and more about designing, a good functional product. Whereas you guys actually like kind of have a lot of freedom in creating something really, visually amazing.
Yeah.
Mm. That's cool.
Yeah. I think it does. Well, people buy a car, they go to the court, the forecourt, and they'll say, oh, "That one looks good." So the
Mm.
first thing is always that it looks good,
Yep.
or the color's got to be, right, or the trim's got to be right.
Mm.
So it's not just about us, the guys that sketch the cars. It's everyone who, even the CMF, color materials, it plays a huge part in it as well. To develop the colors and the schemes and the trims and the materials, finishes, all of that stuff is very important.
Mm.
Especially now, like with interiors becoming what they are. If we do go autonomous at some point, having a really nice place to sit, having a really nice place to have a multi-use interior. You know, so then suddenly, if you look at, you talking about 80s cars earlier, you look at an 80s car and then you look at a new car and you
Mm.
look at the quality difference in the materials, just in the
Mm.
seat material, just the fabric
Mm.
and, and all of that. It's of a much higher quality now than it used to be.
Mm.
You know,
Even at a low price point?
even in a
Even at a low
yeah.
price point?
Oh yeah. You mean you tell me you go and pick up a Nissan Sunny from 1984, and then you get into a new Nissan now, and it's
Mm.
like the quality difference is massive.
The durability would probably be less, right?
No, not necessarily. I think we've
Okay.
got more durable materials now.
I think there's like I do think there's a bit of a worry with modern vehicles is like everything is becoming digital now. Like every component of your vehicle is somewhat connected to digital electronics or, sensors and things like that. And I feel
Yeah.
like the longevity of these things are probably going to be a lot less than like just classic mechanical automotive design.
Yeah, that's a bit of a worry. I mean,
Yeah.
if I guess if we just compare it in terms of like how quickly your smartphone is
Yep.
outdated,
Exactly. Yeah.
you know, and then so then you just go on from that. Really, you've got all these screens in the car, and the updatability is limited
Mm.
to that. And how long are you going to update that piece of technology until it doesn't work anymore with the
Yeah.
software? On whatever. So then what do you do with it? What do you do with these cars with these massive screens in 15 years time?
Mm. Yeah. Will there be a classic cars in the future? That's the thing I was thinking the other day. Like, will there be cars from 2022, 50 years from now that people keep as like a classic car, or will they just not even be functional because there's so many problems with them now? You know,
Your probably best bet is S550 Mustang or a Dodge Charger or something like that.
yeah,
Challenge.
because they still have
Some,
that kind of tactile feel to it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think they made the effort to make it still have that manual tactile feeling to it.
mm,
You know, but I can't say much for a Tesla. I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe not. Who knows? You know,
yeah. Do you
but
think auto?
that'll be interesting to see. Actually,
Yeah, be
be
interesting to see
interesting to
how
see.
it changes. What do you think about
We'll catch
autonomous
up in 50
vehicles?
years.
Sorry?
We'll catch up. We'll do another podcast in
Yeah,
50
yeah.
years and
You're this
revisit
little
that.
old man.
Yeah. Hang on. Let
Hello.
me just put my teeth. Let me just put my teeth in.
Yeah.
So.
What do you think about autonomous vehicles? Do you think they're going to become the norm? Like, will we not have, driving capabilities in 10 years?
No, I don't believe in tenure. I think that's too yeah, that's too soon. I mean, if you just look at the longevity or the durability or whatever of cars that are being sold right now,
Yeah.
the lifetime, it's way more than 10 years. You know, if you bought a car in the 60s, anything from the 60s and 70s pretty much melted away in the rain. They just rusted inside out, whether it was British or Italian or Japanese or whatever, cars from the 60s, 70s, even early 80s basically just disintegrated in the rain, unless they were in a hot climate.
Why is
Nowadays,
that?
they just didn't weatherproof them,
Yeah.
some of the British companies, they just didn't use very good quality steel, and just kind of deteriorated over time. Just the way things were back then. But like now, things are the cars are weather protected, and they've got the corrosion warranties on them, and all sorts of things. The durability of, like, if you buy a cheap car now compared to buying a cheap car probably in the 70s, the level of quality is massively different, you
Mm.
know. And so then the lastability of these cars now, it's much longer. Lifespan of modern cars is much, much longer than it was back then.
Yeah.
So then in 10 years, 10 years is just not a long time away,
Yeah.
you know. Um 10 years ago, like I mean, I've got a 2007 Jaguar XJ. It's my daily driver. It's just still running
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah.
I do everything in that car. It just goes everywhere, and it's perfect.
Yeah.
That's 2007. And it's still going strong. So if you're buying a car now, you, they'll still be going for 10 years. So then if you start putting autonomous cars, have you heard about everything that's going on in San Francisco? How autonomous cars are like causing havoc on the
Yeah.
streets. They're basically just going haywire. So I think, yeah, not 10 years, probably more likely, 20 years, I'd
I feel
say.
like with autonomous cars, the issue is like the compatibility right now. Like you've got non-autonomous cars, you've got radical people running around the streets, and then you've got these
Yeah,
like autonomous cars that like if there was no one on the street would probably work perfectly, right?
yeah,
But like
yeah,
fitting those two like systems together are very hard. Like I feel like the only way it's going to take over is if they force it to be adopted, and they're like, you can't drive your other car anymore, or like things like that. Because right
yeah.
now I feel like it's just too like, maybe autonomous car on the motorway would be fine, but I feel like around the streets of London,
Mm,
I don't see that. I feel like there's definitely going to be too many. The roads are too narrow. There's too many people, jumping on the street, riding their, electric scooters everywhere. Like
yeah,
it's
yeah.
too unpredictable. You can't use AI to detect, these
No,
radical changes that could happen at any time.
yeah, no, I agree. I think that the technology is not there yet, and then it's a question of, do we want that? Do we need that? Is
Yeah.
that something that we need? Do we need that? I get the appeal of it. Like if I had a car and I drive to the pub with my friends, right? And then I get absolutely hammered, and then I put it on autonomous mode and it takes me home.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's brilliant. I mean, my own car, and then it takes me home, and then it parks itself up, and you know,
Mm,
carries me into the house and puts me on the sofa. But yeah, I think we're not quite there yet with that technology.
yeah.
So
Well, I don't know if it'll ever be like that, but I feel like the police will never let you just drink and drive, even if you're not touching the controls, because there's still the chance you're like,
go to sleep.
drunkenly hit the steering wheel and like swerve into something. I don't know.
Well, no, you got the foldaway steering wheels now,
Yeah, true. Mm,
so you just
who
go to
knows?
sleep.
Maybe.
Yeah, or the
Um,
car will like just strap you in, so you
yeah,
can't move. I'm writing all these ideas down. Don't worry.
yeah. We're coming up with a new design right here.
Exactly.
Can you discuss how cultural influences affect automotive design and how you design for different cultural backgrounds and different markets?
Yeah. So a lot of research goes into that. A
Mm,
lot of research goes into that about demographic and what's required, for particular cultures and countries, and what helps them tick or what's required in that marketplace. How that happens, yeah, like I said, it's a big process, large
mm,
process. They do a lot of deep research. It could be like if you sold X vehicle for 5 to 7 years in a market, you then have something to base your research off of. That the
mm,
last model, these were the weak points. This didn't do very well in this particular part of the world. Why was that? So you then have data.
mm,
That plays a big part with dealing with all that kind of stuff. So that's one part of designing for a particular culture. And then when it comes to the design studio, you have to understand the visual influences. What do they respond to, and what does that market respond to? What is it like? What doesn't work,
mm,
and then comes back into CMF.
mm,
Certain colors don't work in certain marketplaces,
mm,
you know, for a particular type of car. In other markets, a particular color will be massively successful.
mm.
If you look at one example that I can think of is like the Nissan 350Z,
Mm.
the
Yeah.
first generation 350Z. There was this, I can't remember the name of the color, but this really nice orange, kind of like the color of your chair, but metallic. It was like this kind of burnt metallic orange,
Yep.
really nice color. So if you looked at it maybe in like the Californian sun or in Australia or something, a really
Mm,
nice sunny environment, like the color came to life. It was
mm,
really, really nice, bright, vibrant color. You bring that car to the UK, that same metallic color looks dull. It
mm.
just looks
Wow.
flat. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. Yeah, it still
Mm,
looks good, but it doesn't have that vibrancy that it has in the sun.
mm.
You know, so small things like that.
Yeah, it's
So for
amazing.
example, like in the UAE and even in India as well, like the color white. Obviously it's very hot out there,
Mm,
so like a lot of white cars. I guess that's one thing that comes back into CMF.
mm.
Design. Material choices like leather in 40 degrees heat.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I mean, you might want a fabric which is like a cooling fabric or something,
Mm,
or a fabric which circulates air potentially.
mm.
So
Yeah, it's amazing the amount of elements you'd have to take into consideration when designing for like an international market for cars.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
In terms of sustainability, obviously it's a big thing in design in general at the moment. And I think for automotive design, probably maybe even more because there's been, increasing concerns around the sustainability of the automotive industry.
Hmm.
How do you think that's going to affect your position as a designer, or maybe even just, the design of vehicles in the future?
You mean like how sustainability is going to affect us as
Yeah, how like
designers?
increasing regulations and yeah, like maybe even consumer push towards sustainability is going to affect it.
Well, it's already kind of happening. Like, companies are moving away from leather. They still have a leather option,
Yeah.
but they're using a plant-based leatherette or something,
Mm,
and so with low kind of a lower impact on production. So it's not just a case of producing a non-leather, because that can just be a plastic vinyl based thing, which is not very eco-friendly.
Yeah.
But then, it's actually producing something which is recyclable, or it can be, repurposed or something. So
Mm.
it is happening. Like, there was an article on LinkedIn that I read about Cullen design. So Ian Cullen, obviously
Mm.
the ex-chief of Jaguar Land Rover, or Jaguar
Sounds
rather.
familiar.
Yeah, so he's he started his own sort of design firm here in the UK, and they did this really interesting study about sort of, I think, I don't quote me on this, look into it please, but I believe it's like they use plant-based materials
Mm.
to produce like plastic-like materials and certain fabrics and stuff, just as an experiment to see
Mm.
what the future of automotive materials could be, away from plastics and synthetics.
Mm.
So certain things like that. From a style point of view, I think we're still going to design cool stuff.
Yeah.
The materials might change, but
Mm.
yeah.
Do you think
So
like use of plastic will minimize? Because the thing is with modern cars is like all the exterior panels are generally plastic now.
yeah.
Painted plastic, so it's like it's not really that easy to recycle these kind of things. Like, do you think like what do you see as the future of that kind of industry? Do you think it's going to continue, or do you think there'll be an alternative?
Sorry. Panels in what? Sorry.
Well,
In
like all the external panels of vehicles these days are pretty much plastic.
Are
Um,
they?
are they not? No.
No, no. It's pressed. You got pressed steel
Well,
for the majority.
it depends on the car, I suppose. But like on like consumer level cars, generally it's like most panels are plastic, except for like the roof, the bonnet, and the back. I know
Well,
like
the
on
doors, the front fenders,
the
the
doors, yeah, I
bonnet,
suppose. But even
the
like even
complete
front fenders
frame.
now, a lot of cars replaced it with plastic. I know. Like my girlfriend's X trailers, the front fenders are plastic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, so I don't know many cars. I mean, yeah, you've got like in Europe, you've got like the Citroen C1.
I suppose maybe it's more the Japanese and like your Asian cars that are plastic. Maybe the European cars are more metal. But
Yeah,
like most
no,
cars here are majority plastic now. Especially like the
really,
Chinese brands like Havel and stuff.
that's
Havel and
interesting.
what's the
Okay.
other one? I can't remember. Like the real Chinese brands, like the whole most of that car is just plastic now. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Massive front plastic grills that just look weird. I don't like
Yeah, I
them.
mean, I know. Obviously, the complete front fascia, like
Yeah.
fascias, have got huge. Before
Yeah.
you just have a bumper, right? So now
Yeah.
you've got a fascia, and on that fascia, you've got the front loaded grille, and you've got the
Mm.
number plate plinth, and all of that. That's all plastic.
Mm.
And then you've got the rear fascia, which is the lower diffuser, the where you put the number plate, the
Mm.
painted bumper area. That's all plastic.
Yeah.
And the side rocker panel and whatever. Um, but the bonnet, the structural areas are
Mm.
still like
Yeah.
doors.
Structural areas, yeah.
Obviously, the frame of the vehicle, all of that's still either steel or aluminium or
Mm.
whatever.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was looking at a project by BMW and they're basically creating like a car that can be completely recycled. Have you heard about
Mm,
this? I think it's the iVision something. You know how they have like the funny names. But
mm,
yeah, it's basically a completely recyclable car. Like the idea would be all panels would be made of aluminium, like and like unpainted aluminium, so that you'd be able to kind of easily recycle it, opposed to like a massive process of getting the paint off the panels first,
yeah.
and things like that. And like even in the interior, like the whole interior would be made of recyclable materials.
Hmm.
But I feel like from like a realistic standpoint, it's not that easy to create a fully sustainable car that because like I think right now like with Tesla and things like that they're trying to tackle it from a powertrain perspective, but from a
Yeah.
material perspective they're not really worrying about that right now.
I think that will be the next. So, like, if we've ticked, I don't think we've ticked the powertrain thing, because
Yeah.
where those materials come from to create the
Yeah.
batteries, it's not. It's just another finite source of fuel,
Yeah.
right? We're switching from one finite source to another. Effectively, this
Mm.
one you have to mine for, the other one you've got to drill for
Mm.
oil. Um, yeah, granted that we're not producing fumes from the back of the car, but then it comes back down to where that electricity comes from.
Mm.
That then depends on the country or whatever. But then, yeah, the material thing is probably the next box that we need to tick in terms of like, and there's so many materials
Mm.
in a vehicle interior. It's actually crazy. There's so many parts.
Mm.
And so there needs to be something durable, something that isn't going to, after a few years start, breaking apart. And then it comes back to, heat as well. Like certain countries have got very intense summertime,
Mm.
other countries have very intense winter, and so those materials need to be tested properly so that not only do they meet the design requirements and safety requirements, but they also, tick. You see a pattern now, right? So we have to really deal with a lot of this stuff. But as designers, we tend not to think about this stuff on a day-to-day basis,
Yeah.
like, because it's like, there's material allocation, like this is going to be made of this, that's going to be made of that, whatever, as long as those considerations have taken place already, we can then do our job to
Yeah.
design it, make
Mm.
it look good, make it function right, make sure the functionality is within the car and the interior, you
Mm.
know. But it certainly is a consideration that a lot of companies are taking on board right now.
Mm. I think it's really hard to find the correct step forward because there's just so many different options and like they're all very hard to implement on like a mass scale. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's incremental. We'll
Yeah.
get there. It's an increment. It's a huge industry, right? So
Mm. Yeah.
yeah, we've got to move closer to that goal, incrementally.
How do you balance traditional elements of a vehicle, like the history of the vehicle, the traditional, as you already mentioned, the components that kind of make up that vehicle's design language with innovation in that vehicle? Like, how do you balance those two aspects when you design a vehicle?
What, like tradition and having like the innovative, like, for example, a screen, but also having the
I
historic.
mean more like, for example, good references like the new Lamborghini Countach. Like
Mhm.
it's innovative, but it still has the design language of the old one. Like, how do you design for that change when you're designing a new model of a vehicle?
Yeah, I think innovative is like a term which we use quite loosely, but
Mm.
innovation is like something novel, something that we haven't seen before,
Mm.
So it's modernized. It's a modernized Countach based on
Mm.
a Aventador platform or whatever.
Mm.
Um, I mean, it's retro design. It's
Mm.
taking something that exists and then recreating it for today for a niche. And
Mm.
I don't think it's produced in the same volume as the Countach was.
No, yeah.
I think it's a very low volume car, but well, I mean, how do you balance that? I don't know, to be honest. I've never worked on anything retro
I
or
mean, even in like the Volkswagen Golf, as you mentioned, like you've
yeah,
got that design history. Like the Golf has been around for what, like I don't know, like 40 years, maybe more. I don't even
yeah.
know. And like
Mm.
now you've got to design that new version of the Golf. Like, how do you continue to represent the past but still make evolutions in the design?
That's different because the Countach is something, that's a niche, right?
Yep.
But then the
Yeah.
Golf is something which is like that's like a staple, like that's like your bread
Mm.
and butter car,
My dad had that car in the 80s.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's like
Yeah.
that's like a bread and butter car,
Mm.
and for that to happen continuously over the course of X amount of years, like you need to nail that every single time. Like,
Mm.
like everything needs to be on point with the car, from the design, from the styling to your trim offerings. It's got to appeal to such a wide marketplace. Like you see so many Golfs on the road,
Mm.
it's crazy how many Golfs you see on the road, right? So um how you balance that is like, oh man, yeah, obviously the market research that they do into consumers, what people want and how needs are evolving and all this kind of stuff. So as times move on, technology moves on, and you have to incorporate the right level of technology into the car
Mm.
as well as usability. So you know, if you buy the Golf now that your dad had, you know, it's
Mm,
smaller, you know,
mm,
its load capacity isn't as much. It might not have the same range in terms of, you know, fuel capacity, fuel
mm,
efficiency, all this kind of stuff. And then, you know, even creature comforts as well.
mm,
So all like our needs as a, you know, as a generation have changed, you know.
mm,
And so I think with something like Golf, you need to you need to contain all of those basic creature comfort needs.
mm,
You know, it's got to look, it's got to look right. It's got to look not over the top styled.
mm,
It's got to be just kind of like. I mean, it's hard to do. It's a hard feat to
mm,
win every single time, and the Golf seems to have done it with every single generation.
mm.
You know,
Yeah, I can't
um,
imagine it would be really hard. And like even like the market's very critical. Like I feel like, you know, the automotive field is so critical of design. Like
it's
even
so
even
easy to drop the ball.
it's so easy to drop the ball. Even the BMW, like the new BMW series, so many people I know just criticize them because they prefer the like, more classic, you know, BMW look from like even like 10 years
Yeah,
ago.
but the thing is though, right? So when I remember when I was a student, when Chris Bangle was doing his thing at BMW,
Mm,
you know, they were criticizing Chris Bangle for those cars. They were like, "Oh, it's so ugly. We prefer the older one, whatever." And now all the Bangle cars are like, "Oh my God, yeah, the Bangle 7 Series or the Bangle this or that or the other." You know,
mm,
is it not the same thing? Like, are we not
yeah,
just going through the same cycle?
yeah. I feel like
And then
people get
in
used to
10
it.
years, everyone's going to say, "Oh, do you remember that BMW looked so good?" And now look at what we've got. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think it's just when major changes happen, people are first apprehensive and then they
Yeah,
accept it after once they get used to it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Volkswagen just they just have a signature. You know, they just
Mm.
it's a staple. You know, it's like Coca-Cola. It's like classic Coke. The Golf is like classic Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Like you know what you're gonna get. You know you're gonna get this, and that's why you buy a Golf. But then
Mm.
if you want something quicker, you get the Golf R or you
Yeah.
get the GTR.
Golf R is cool. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. No,
so
I think it's interesting. Like,
it's
in
crazy. Like how can you appeal to, like you just said, a Golf R is cool, right?
mm,
So how can you appeal to someone like yourself who thinks a Golf R is cool,
mm,
but then also appeal to, you know, a 65-year-old guy who wants to buy a daily runaround who just buys the basic spec Golf
mm,
Trendline,
yeah.
same car, pretty
Yeah.
much under the same car. Yeah, the engine's different and the suspension setup's different,
Mm.
whatever, right? But it essentially it's the same car.
That's the interesting thing about the Golf is I feel like the Golf R it looks so much more sporty, even though
Yeah,
it's legit just a hatchback, right? It shouldn't look that sporty really. Like I mean it should, but it, like you think of when you think of a sports car, you think of a sedan or a you know or a coupe or something like that. But the
yeah,
hatchback is you know they made a really sporty looking car. But then yeah, as you're saying, you go like to the base model of that same car and it doesn't really look that sporty and it looks like more of
yeah,
a everyday car. But they did a really good
yeah.
job with the design language. Yeah.
Yeah, it's baked into the DNA. Like they know they're going to do a GTI version of that.
Mm,
They know they're going to do an R version of that. Then they know they're going to do that already. And BMW work in the same way. So BMW engineer their cars
mm,
because they know they're going to do an M3. They know the 3 Series will have an M3 derivative. You know, so when they engineer the chassis, they make sure that it's built with a certain stiffness.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
um, yeah.
I've got like my lights, the clouds are going in and out, and I'm just
Oh,
got a
is that what
dark
that is? I was
light.
wondering what it was. I thought it was just my eyes because you know it's late and I'm just like, what the hell is going on? All the
Let's wrap
whiskey.
this up anyway. In terms of the future of automotive design, what big changes do you see for the future, and like what are you really interested in, and you know what things should people watch in the space in the coming years?
Oh man, that's such a crazy question because like I've had so many discussions recently about that.
Mm,
Just the other day we were talking about the integration of air taxis
mm,
and how that might play a part in stuff, but that's a whole other thing. Um, like how what to watch in this space. Oh, just I think just watch this space in general.
mm,
Like everyone's trying to figure out what the next generation of vehicles is going to be like, right? We're playing with autonomous, we're playing with electric, we're playing with hydrogen, we're playing with hybrids. Porsche and Ferrari, I think they've just done something with the EU about some to keep internal combustion engines going with
Mm.
an e-fuel, like a synthetic e-fuel, which I believe doesn't produce any greenhouse gases. So then there's that whole thing coming into play. There's like this massive melting pot of technologies and potential interior solutions happening right now. Like some people still want the manual shifter,
Mm.
some people just want to be like completely hands off.
Mm.
Others want high functionality and they want the screens and all the trimmings.
Mm.
And then other people's like, no, I just want simplicity. I just
Mm.
Prime example. Okay, prime example. Have you seen the new Gordon Murray T50? Okay, so check it out, right? So
What is
what
it called?
have
What is it called?
Gordon Murray Automotive? I think it's
Um,
called the T50, I think. So
uh,
basically, if you watch the YouTube video of Gordon Murray explaining what the car is, there's no screens on this car. This is a brand new supercar,
yeah.
right? There's no screens on it because Gordon Murray was like he's the designer of the original McLaren F1.
Mm.
Yeah.
McLaren F1.
Um,
That's a
yeah.
good
So
car.
he
Yeah.
designed, engineered, that he was the guy leading
Nice
that.
looking car.
Yeah.
Yeah, no
So
screens.
this is
Right.
supposedly the spiritual successor to the McLaren F1.
Mm.
Same layout, the sort of central seating with two seats flanked on the
Because that's the thing,
sides.
like a supercar is meant in my eyes is meant to be like the road F111, like the road, I mean road F18, you know what I mean? Like it's a road jet, really. So like
Mm.
I don't like it should feel like a cockpit of a plane, in my opinion. Like
Yeah.
with all the knobs and like you can, like I feel like that's what's cool about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these days
That's
it's
what
like,
he Yeah,
yeah.
that's what he's done. But this is what I'm saying. There's two or multiple schools of thought right now. So with
Mm.
Gordon Murray, he went right, no screens,
Yeah.
manual. He's got manual gauges, and
Mm.
and you've got all the toggle switches or whatever. It's all manual, simple steering wheel, no buttons on the steering wheel, and it's a pure driving experience. I believe it doesn't have power steering either, but it's got like some kind of torque system at low speed, so you can park the car,
Yeah.
so it's easy to park. But then above, I think 40 or 50 miles an hour or something like that, you don't have that assistance. You don't have power steering in it to keep the weight down.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's really a pure car.
Yeah.
So that's one school of thought. And then you've got what Ferrari's doing,
Mm.
with all singing, all dancing, bells and whistles and screens and everything else.
Mm.
And then you've got the talk of autonomous and all. So you know what I mean. I can't answer your question to
Mm.
say what to look out for. I just think as an industry we're going through a massive shift.
Mm.
You know, we're going through a huge shift, and I actually don't know what we're going to end up with, and that's what's really exciting about it.
Mm. Yeah.
We're heading towards a future where we're just experimenting and we're playing with new ideas and figuring out what part the car is going to play in the future. Yeah,
Mm. Yeah, it's really exciting. When the
yeah.
when the Koenigsegg stick shift came out, I was like, that's awesome. Like stick shifts.
The what? Sorry.
The I don't know what it's called. The Koenigsegg that's stick
Oh,
shift,
the Koenigsegg. Yeah, yeah,
or the
yeah,
Koenigsegg that's quick shift. Stick
yeah.
shift. Yeah. Like that's such a cool idea. Like these days you never really see many stick shift what's it called? Supercars, but they did it. Yeah.
Yeah,
They managed to
yeah.
make like what, like 1,000 horsepower car with a stick shift gearbox. It's just crazy.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean Koenigsegg's another level, but yeah,
Yeah.
um, yeah. So maybe they'll all coexist.
Yeah.
Maybe all of these things will coexist. Maybe you'll have a car which is like your daily, and it's electric, and you charge it at work, and it's just kind of boring or whatever. It's just your thing. You throw the kids in, and you throw the
Yeah.
stuff in, you go away, and whatever, right? And then maybe there's also a market for the muscle car or the
Mm.
the manual shifter.
Yeah.
If you want to go out and have a blast.
Mm. Yeah.
So
Who knows?
yeah, we don't know. We'll find out. That's what we're here to do, right?
That's the exciting part of design.
Yeah, exactly. So
Just to finish up, what advice would you give to aspiring designers, maybe in automotive design or just getting into the field? What advice would you give to them?
don't do it. No. um, uh, be curious. Like just what we
Mm.
said earlier. Get off Google. Get off Pinterest. Like just go out and do stuff. Like go and I've got spray paints here, man. I've got spray paints. I've got acrylic paints up
Are you
there somewhere.
tagging you're tagging the street?
Nah, just my living room. I can't do that anymore. I'm not allowed. But yeah, like go and experiment.
Yeah.
Like play with materials. Go and play with like get off the iPad, get off the screen.
Mm.
Go and do something else, right?
Mm.
If you got a hobby, like whether it's going out for a bike ride or skateboarding or
Mm.
whatever that is, and be influenced by those outside factors.
Mm.
That will be the first thing. And yeah, just put yourself out there. Like, don't be afraid. The number one thing is like, do not compare yourself to what you see on Instagram.
Yeah.
Like
That's a big
that
one.
is, I've seen it like time and again, and then people are like, oh yeah, but this guy's so good, and like he's got these really cool sketches, and I'm just like, yeah, but like you don't know what that person's been through to get to those crazy high quality level sketches.
Mm.
You also don't know how long it's taken that person to do it.
Mm.
You know, like I've seen people put it on Instagram like just a quick sketch, and it's like this super finished sketch. And I'm like, that's not a quick sketch.
Yeah.
Like, that's a super finished sketch, And it's so easy to like read that and like, oh my god, that's such a quick sketch. Like, how am I ever gonna do that?
Mm.
The reality of it is you don't know what that person's been through to get to that point.
Yeah.
You won't know what their journey's been, what their work was like 6 months ago, 12
Mm.
months ago, 5 years ago,
Mm.
right? So you have to, my core piece of advice is, yeah, so stop comparing yourself to people on Instagram and social media and run your own race.
Mm. Compare yourself to the
Just,
person you are yesterday. I love that saying.
yeah, just, no, just be like, just run your own race, like stay your course, like think about what you need to do next.
Mm.
How can you better yourself next? What do you need to work on? Discipline yourself. Like if you're not good enough right now at something, what do you need to do? Break down the steps. Like just break it down into baby steps. Like what do you need to do next?
Mm.
And then do that, and then figure out what are the next steps of that. And connect with people. Find yourself a mentor, or find yourself someone who's experienced in the industry, and speak to them and say, what was their journey like? What did they
Mm.
do? You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I mean, simply, get out your own skin. Go and explore. Don't compare yourself to those on Instagram and on social media, and just put yourself out there and continue to better yourself.
Mm. Yeah, that's good.
You know.
You offer a mentorship program for automotive designers.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're interested, maybe reach out. I'm sure you'd be happy to take anyone's call or message.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, for mentioning that. Yeah, if anyone needs guidance or whatever, it's not just like, here's a tutorial and cool, see you later. Like for me, it's more about building
Mm.
relationships, and it's more like having a PT sessions, or
Mm.
if you're playing a sport or something, you've got a coach, and it's not just about your skills of sketching or rendering. It's about your lifestyle. Like
Mm.
what are you doing in your day to day? How can we build that plan into your lifestyle so
Mm.
that it's not just, oh, I've got to spend an hour to sketch. It's
Mm.
like it's a part of your life.
Mm.
It's a fully integrated part of your life, and that's
Mm.
what I help people to build. you know, and that's why it's the success rate has been pretty good.
Mm.
Like just in the last 2 weeks, I've had 3 people ring me up saying I've got the job. You know,
That's great. Yeah.
for me, that's what it's about.
Mm.
I work full time. For me, it's not about like becoming a millionaire by
Yeah.
doing that. It's about giving something back, and
Mm.
so
Imparting
yeah,
your knowledge as well. Mm.
it's really satisfying when someone's been struggling, and you've been able to say, look, I think you should do these things over the X amount of time. We'll see how you get on, and we'll chop and change it as we go along.
Mm,
Really personalize it, and then you get the result, and they get the job, and you're like,
mm.
cool.
Yeah,
I'll see you in the industry.
that's great.
Because I'm gonna probably end up working with some of these people.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, and I
so
mean, they'll probably respect you much more if they know you actually help them in that initial stage, you know? Yeah,
this is it. You build a relationship with
yeah,
people, and that's a friendship that you'll have, forever. You
mm,
know.
exactly. Oh yeah, well, thank you so much for coming on today, Saurabh. Saurabh?
It's been
Saurabh? Is
awesome.
that
Thank
how I
you
say
for
it?
having me.
Saurabh?
Yeah, no, perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thanks so much
Uh,
for coming on, and it was really great to have a chat. I feel like we got along well, and yeah,
yeah,
I hope to have you back on again soon.
yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Roman. And yeah, wish you all the best, and hopefully we'll catch up again soon.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Yeah. All right.
Cheers.
Awesome. Take care.